Who's back? Back again. Mo and Rob, tell your friends. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talking Reds. Had to get that little bit of it in there. That one's for Josh Sexton, but also for me, because I'm really pleased to be back doing Talking Reds again with my old mucker, Rob Gutmann. Rob, it's been a while. How have you been, my friend?
Lost, Mo. Lost without you. Lost. When did we last do a bloody show? I mean, I know we've done things like AFQ. Oh, we've done gutter shows, but we haven't done one of these for a long time. Do you remember those days when Neil talked about how he was going to take us to the top? He was going to make the Rob and Mo show, a big show, syndicated, coast to coast, world tour. Never fucking happened.
I mean, there was talks of big pictures of us being commissioned by, fantastic independent artists for work. But no, actually, believe it or not, I think the last Talking Reds we did together was the preview for Atletico Madrid.
Shut the back door, really?
Yeah, basically it was just before everything shut down. So maybe our return means that everything's going to come back to normal. Who knows? But we do have another preview show to do today because, as you all know, today is match day, a very important match. For some reason, over the last 15 years, every time Liverpool play Chelsea, there's something on it. None of these games have ever been boring. None of these games have ever been completely irrelevant. And this one's no different. We're both in a big fight to get into the Champions League places. They've improved under their new manager. We're hoping to start improving. Rob, first of all, how are you feeling about this game? How have you woken up today? Confident, nervous, a bit of both?
Yesterday, I talked myself into very confident. Today, I'm a little bit more nervous because I've sort of the stakes of it of dawning on me a little bit. I've stopped giving a damn about once it became sort of apparent we weren't going to win the league, just like in a petulant way, I didn't care about anything. It's taken me about 3 weeks. I've now properly reorientated. I've started looking at league tables again. I mean, I'm always aware, but in normal times, I'm a forensic league table looker at it. I look at everyone's remaining fixtures. But when Liverpool are shite, really shit, I can't look. It's like a road crash, right? I can't do it. But I'm back in the game. And I've done it. And I've also looked at everybody else's fixtures. Neil Atco has been in my ear for the best part of a week, talking to me about how Liverpool shouldn't be afraid to take a draw. In fact, we were joking yesterday that Neil actually would prefer a draw than a Liverpool win, just so he could be vindicated in some surreal sense. But you look at it and you go, the thing about this dogfight is a very interesting one for fourth now, because people are assuming Man U and Leicester have got it wrapped up, and they definitely don't, but they are in the box seat for those first two places. So, actually, first two of the first three places. So that last place, in theory, is between Liverpool, West Ham, Everton, Chelsea, Tottenham, and I'm probably missing somebody else out. I'll go us as well. Maybe Villa at the back, or even Arsenal.
Well, I mean, Villa and Tottenham are on the same point. So
there you go.
If we're including Spurs, we're including Villa, I guess.
So you look at it and you go, perhaps you need opportunities to beat your biggest rivals, right? Perhaps you need an opportunity to put space between you and them. I mean, Leicester and Everton have done it to us recently. I do get Neil's point. It would be bad to lose to Chelsea because then they would have real daylight between us and them, and that wouldn't be good. But at the same token, opportunity is knocks for us tonight. I mean, we're normally at home. I don't know. We've stopped talking about it as the advantage it was before the turn of the year. But opportunity does knock for us on this one. I mean, I've looked at the remaining, more comfortingly, I've looked at the remaining fixtures for all the rivals. And I don't know if anybody else has, but ours are better than the others by a good... Yeah, on paper, I mean, it depends. We've got to win our games. They've of the games against Champions League rivals and Man City. Most of the teams in contention have got 5 games against each other plus Man City to play. That applies to virtually all of those names we just listed. Maybe one has 4 in Man City. We have got 3 left in that class, and none of them are Man City. I'm including Arsenal in this mix for argument's sake because they do have a big game in them in the big games. So there's a sort of 3-ish game advantage for us here. So to an extent, Neil's mantra about just don't lose this has got some validity. Because once you've got Chelsea out of the way, you're then looking at, it's not plain sailing, but it's a lot of winnable games.
It is. And I think that to a certain extent, Chelsea are probably going to come with the same mindset, even after all the criticism they took for the game against Manchester United at the weekend, because it's still an away game. They're still playing away to the league champions. So there's no world where that is a bad result if you get a draw. So there's been a lot of talk about team. We've been happy to see players returning from injury for a change as opposed to going in the other direction. I exhausted my head on the team talk yesterday talking about when Fabinho comes back, where is he playing, defence or midfield? So I'm going to ask you that question. What do you think Klopp is going to do, and what would you do if they're different?
Yeah, they're really different, actually. They're really different. I did as an exercise recently when writing my preview pieces, trying to do what I do, but it's just a bit too mad what I do. If you literally said, here's the keys, do what you fucking like. Yeah. I had Trent Alexander in the front three, I think, straight away, and all kinds of madness. So it doesn't. So what I would do is irrelevant. I think he's got, if Fab's fully ready, he's kind of got to go into defence tonight and kind of got to go into midfield on Sunday. That's how I'm looking. And then back into defence for Leipzig. It's basically super hard game, not so super hard game. Well, look, if you expect to have all the ball, you're wasting Fab a bit in defence. You might as well have him further forward in midfield. If you expect to have periods when you're going to come under pressure, you want his ability and experience at the back because there is nobody else.
No, that's a fair shout. I think there's some talk about the idea of building a partnership between Kabak and Phillips after they got their clean sheet against Sheffield United. There's been Phillips himself has done an interview in the last couple of days where he spoke about how Kabak's settling in and how it's actually a positive for him that these guys came in because it's a positive for the club. And I was thinking about this, the idea of building the partnership between those two, because obviously Matt Phillips spent a year in Germany. Kabak's just come from Germany, so they're going to have that in common. I imagine he's going to be one of the few people in that dressing room who's going to be able to talk to Kabak regularly. So it might be an argument to say that when Fab does go into midfield, these are going to be the two that play a consistent amount of games. You see that happening?
Yeah, I mean they're the only picks really, short of the mystery man himself, Ben Davis. They're the only picks, and I do agree. And Klopp was asked the question, and I think he answered the question the way I would answer the question, which is they said to him, "Do you think they'd be in the press conference? Do you think it's a good thing to get continuity by picking the same people because you've picked 17 odd combinations?" And he queried that number, but then he said, "Yeah, ideally." And I think the answer to anybody posing that question to anybody else is, yeah, ideally. But it's not ideal when you're playing Chelsea with a pacey enough, very, very skilled attack to put two very raw players in there. So I think, you have to put Fab in there tonight. I think there is a case, I suppose. Look, if I feel the teams get announced and it's Kabak and Nat, Kabak and Nat in centre backs, and Fab's in midfield, I'm going to be the first one to go, oh, I like that. Bring it. Go on then. Bring it. It's a sort of, but it would be ballsy. It would be ballsy and a sort of, we're fucking taking it to you. Fab, Ginny, Thiago, or Fab, Ginny, Keita even, right? Go. And you won't get near our defence,
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? That's the whole point, is the fact that people have spoken about how this injury crisis has affected the defence and how it's had the knock-on effect on the attack. Most of that is born from the midfield. And yes, we've had a lot of options, but we haven't really been having the elite options. And if you think about Chelsea in particular, remember the last time we played them at Anfield when we got the trophy? We started with Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain, and they both scored. So if you think about it in that perspective, one of the things that I'm looking forward to about this game is having options, because we are going to have options. Another one that we're probably going to see from the bench is Diogo Jota. Now, I'm pleased to see him back, but I'm a little bit nervous of us expecting him to come straight back in and be just as good. Where are you on that scale?
Yeah, I am. I mean, you'd think he'd been like Mohamed Salah for 3 years, and might have missed him for 3 months. He's this rookie, not rookie exactly, but he's this new signing who, let's be honest, Liverpool fans weren't begging Liverpool to sign him when he was at Wolves last season, and a few I wagered barely heard of him. They would have heard of Adama Traore, perhaps more likely. But he came in and he blew us all away with his goals in particular in that phase. Now we don't know. And we don't know if he'd have gone on to maintain that goal per game ratio. If he had, he'd be fucking something else. He would have bought a player for 40 million who'd now be worth 150 million if he'd maintained that. So it was almost a bit silly to think he could maintain that trajectory. So it sort of begs something of a philosophical question: what sort of player did we ever expect to get back? That's the first thing I'd say. And I know your question was more about, but hang on, he's been out for 3 months and that fucks you over, right? So yeah, I think that's perhaps the more obvious thing is that yes, he's been out for 3 months and you don't just bounce back sharp. Despite the fact although Klopp said he did look exactly that in training last week. But then in pure modern Liverpool style, he got stricken from left field with a tummy ache, right? Which the rumour mill said was acute appendicitis, by the way. Did you spot that one over the weekend? No Liverpool player can have an injury without the rumour mill ratcheting it up to being fucking, I don't know, life-threatening. But in all seriousness, there's a strong possibility that could have taken it out of Diogo, and even 10 minutes off the bench may be a push. I don't know.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I think we've got a lot of games coming up over the next few weeks, so it might be the Klopp's earmarking him for a bigger role against his former team who are coming up, of course, second leg of the Champions League. So we'll hopefully get to see the best of Diogo between now and then. But unlike you, I'm not expecting too much miracles from him tonight. I am going to up the Neil Atkinson trend, though, and I think we'll win. I think that we'll have that positive momentum of having those options to be able to change things. I think Tuchel's still going to be burnt by his previous visit to Anfield, because as much as we haven't been great there, he has been terrible there, if you think about Dortmund and Bobby. So maybe this is going to be the third of a particularly terrible trilogy for Tuchel. I'm hoping so.
Yeah, I mean, those games, I mean, what is it? It's 4-3 and 3-2. Those were the games, weren't they? Yeah. They could say they were competitive. You know, that his Dortmund team were probably, I'm going to say, for an hour, maybe 55 minutes, the best team that's come to Anfield in the Klopp era for 55 minutes. It was some exhibition. They certainly got themselves back into the game in the Paris Saint-Germain game. We were 3-0 up, weren't we? Oh, no, we were 2-0 up. They got back to 2-2 and Bobby scored the late winner. Yeah, I mean, he came armed with all the gifts when he came with Paris Saint-Germain, didn't he? And when he came with Dortmund, he came up against a Liverpool team that really was in its infancy of evolution under Klopp. So, but yeah, let's see. I'm not quite sure why he took criticism for the Man U game. I watched it. I mean, only 3/4 of an eye on it because I was, preparing myself for our game. But they seemed to dominate Man United, who everyone was raving about a few weeks ago.
I think it's more to do with the fact that they were at home. It got to the 65, 70 mark, and they weren't perceived to have thrown the kitchen sink at it. But
sure.
I think Tuchel's one of those guys who will pay no attention to any of that. So he'll come with a very specific plan. He's another one of the managers in the Premier League who feels like winning a game against Klopp is a big thing, a big step up in his development. And particularly when you think about the past two of them have chosen, let's just hope he's not crying on the side of the pitch like Hasenhuttl was a few weeks ago. Now, time to move on. We have another special event that's happened today. We've got a birthday of one of the favourite sons of this club. I call him the modern godfather. His strength is the actual original godfather, our good man, Kenny Dalglish, 70 years old today. Now, Rob, we aren't that different in age, but you were able to see him live in the flesh while I was replying to watching him on tiny little screens. So give me some memories of those times. Is there anything that stands out, some of your favourite memories watching the man himself?
Jesus Christ. Hearing Kenny's 78 is, wanting to celebrate his birthday gives me mixed blessings because it's like my own birthday. It just reminds you of the passing of time. But Yeah. Wow. I'm a Liverpool supporter because of Kenny, right? Kenny is, you say second only to Shanks, which is fair. To me, he's second only to God. He's just everything for me in football. I got into football because as a kid, unique sports people can attract people to sports, regardless of their interest in the game itself. And he attracted me to football and to LFC. And he was a god to me, and he fulfilled every kid and every supporter's fantasy. Other than trying to obviously modern kids have their heroes, don't they? They go, generation back loved Torres or Fowler, and Suarez or something else. And I go, you don't know what a hero is until you lived through it with Kenny. It was because he just came and came again in terms of what he could bring to the club. We bought him as this incredible striker. So he does a Torres phase for us. You go, wow, look at this guy. He's come in. He's replaced Keegan, who was the best player we'd had in 10 years. He's better, arguably, scoring all the goals. He gets a bit older and he becomes the ultimate playmaker. He's like fucking Bergkamp, Maradona. He's just the ultimate number 10. And he keeps going till he's 36. And then when you think he's done and you think, I can't imagine life without Kenny in the team, he gets the gig as the player manager and you go, well, at least he'll still be the manager. At least we'll have some Kenny there, right? Yeah. And then he puts himself back in the team in an hour of need and heroically wins us the League and FA Cup double. That feeling in 86, you go, there can be no greater act of heroism in the history of the club than what he's done. It was like a film script. And then he goes on to win other leagues with the club. And then on top of it all is the humanity he displays over Hillsborough, which leads to the strain and pain he took it upon himself that led to him leaving Liverpool. It's honestly, it's a saga. It's a Hollywood movie they should make one day. There is not too much. There's nothing I could say about Kenny which would be overstating his legendary status.
I think we all agree with that. And obviously, in the wake of another legend passing this week in Ian St. John, it's nice to be able to celebrate the man. It's a really good piece in The Athletic, talking about it, talking to all of the main characters and all the different phases of his life. I wanted to pick on one thing, though, that's a little bit kind of overlooked in the Kenny lifestyle, and for a lot of modern fans, it's basically their entry point, which is his return as manager. Now, a lot of the time, it's not really spoken about because of how it ended. I want to think about how it began, how we were in our bleakest hour for quite some time, not only on the pitch, but off the pitch. He came back and he brought us all together. And I unfortunately wasn't able to get a ticket to that FA Cup game at Old Trafford when he returned, but I watched it. And I must admit, I was very emotional watching it, seeing him raise his fist to the away end at that time. Were you at that game? Do you remember it as well?
I couldn't get a ticket for that one that day either, but I mean, I must have watched every other game from there on in, more or less. Not every other game, 3 and 4 from there on in, but yeah, it was an emotional time. And the degree to which he saved us was that season, from relegation places virtually to edge of the Champions League places to playing this really great football again after the depths of the Hodgson 6 months. It felt such a Kenny thing to do. But this is why there became an important generational divide, I think, from there on in. Because those of us who'd lived the saga I described a couple of minutes earlier saw that as pure Kenny, and that things would follow on and there would be bumps and there'd be things. But Kenny, it's a religious faith you have to have in Kenny, right? And if you didn't live through it, I felt resentful towards some of the more modern generation when it came towards the end of his first, the first full season, which didn't work out so well, even though we got to 2 cup finals, which wasn't enough for some ungrateful people. But anyway, I know we finished 8th in the league, but it was, I'm still slightly bitter about this. But I do understand that they didn't have the history. They didn't have the history. And if you had, for me, that it just felt there wasn't quite enough respect then. But I suppose that's the nature of modern football, really. And
yeah, and I think the thing about that as well is that, like you say, it's the nature of modern football. Things are changing, but that respect has never been lost within the club. And you can see by how he's been brought back into the fold. Well, I say brought back into the fold. He never really left the fold. No. He was so central to all the celebrations we've had over the last 2 years with trophies. Let's not forget, though, he wasn't there for very long, Kenny, as the second time as manager. He won a trophy, our first trophy in a good few years. He also signed the guy who lifted those trophies that we've had the last couple of years. So once again, his influence was big in a very small space of time.
Yeah, I mean, the first year of the Anfield Wrap was very much Kenny's first full year, if I recall correctly, and we debated this back and forth. What makes a good season? I think that half season was a total credit, to take us from those relegation places to fifth or sixth, whatever we finished. But the improvement was exponential. And I think the next season, although the wheels did fall off in the league, and we had a terrible last third of that campaign in particular, we go to 2 cup finals. We beat some big sides. It wasn't like a Man City run to a cup final where you're beating Crawley Town and Cheltenham en route. We were beating the likes of Everton in the final when they fancied they were a better side than us. We were beating Man United. City were beaten, I think, in the League Cup semi-final. Moneyed City. So it was, and eventually, and the defeat in the FA Cup final, which was a narrow one with Chelsea beating us, and we had a goal, could have been over the line by goal line technology standards.
It was over the line. You will never tell me that ball wasn't in the goal.
I was in line with it. It was in. So, you know what? There was a really strong case to let Kenny go again there, a near 2 trophy manager in his first full season. Look, at the end of the day, you can always argue the sliding doors moment side of it. Brendan goes on to go within an ace of the league, and I wouldn't swap that season for anything. Well, apart from ones where you actually win the league. And then Brendan's demise begats Jurgen and all the loveliness we've had since then. So what has been, but I don't think Kenny's legacy should be tarnished by that year and a half at all.
No, and I think that's one thing. That's one I wanted to kind of bring it back to, is the fact that people don't talk about that era because of it feels like it's a bit of a mark against him. But I think quite the opposite. I think once again he came in when he needed to, regenerated us, and put us on the path we're on today. So Kenny, whatever you're doing, hope you enjoy your day today, mate. I hope we get a win for you today as well. Now, as always, we have the admin to take care of. That's the thing that happens. We're on the Anfield Wrap. We've got lots of shows happening. And if you want to hear more Liverpool-Chelsea preview stuff, we've got the Team Talk, which I was on. We've got the preview video, which has just come out. I believe which you were on. There you go. See, we covered all the bases. I believe that if you're watching this on YouTube, there is a little preview of the preview, so to speak, out there as well. So keep an eye on that. Now, one thing that I haven't had a chance to speak about on Talking Reds is that this whole season I've been in charge of the fantasy football show called The Game, and we're recording another one of those tomorrow. Now, I know, Rob, you're not massive on the old fantasy football stuff, but it probably saved you a little bit of heartache this season, because I can tell you something. I have been going through the mill as the host of this show. I've been trying to do all my best work and give it out to the people. But when it comes to my own team, it's just a big pile of shit.
Is Neil involved in this still?
Technically, he's involved, yes. He's in the league. He's one of the people who sends me surreptitious WhatsApps on a Saturday morning asking me for help. Or
he
asking
cheats.
me for...
He cheats. I can say he cheats.
Cheating. I wouldn't call it cheating. I mean,
where he can, he will.
He has access to StatBomb, which I don't. So, I mean, that might be helpful if he's watching. But yeah, it's one of those things whereby it's very much like your betting against Liverpool scenario, whereby in times with bad Liverpool play, there is still something you can get out of it. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at. What, you want me to comment on Fantasy League? Good luck with that, mate. No, I remember I did that show for first year. Do you know what? It just takes up a lot of your life. You have to do a lot of sodden research. Actually, do you know what? My kids, my 2 boys do it. And Harry Kane will not want in for Tottenham. And my youngest go, yes. And I go, what the fuck? What do you give a fuck about Harry Kane? Harry Kane's the enemy. We don't Harry Kane's because he's my fantasy league team. Piss off with that shit. It distorts people's reality of what they should want in football. That annoys me the most.
See, it can do that. This is true. But then I still think that as someone who literally bet on Manchester City to win the league while Liverpool were beating them to the title, and it looked like you're not really in any position to kind of take shots there. So,
hey, I've funded my lockdown through Liverpool's last 2 months betting against us. Well, I can feed my kids because of betting against Liverpool. Don't knock it.
Hey, we've all got to get it where we can. This is the problem. This is the life that we're living right now. This is the world we're in. Hopefully, we can see some light at the end of this particular tunnel. And I mean, even if it's just for one game to get back into the stadium before the end of the season, I would literally give both arms and everything in my core, and I'm sure all of you out there would too. So we just got to put up with this for now, and hope that the boys tonight will be able to give us something to smile about. I didn't ask you for a prediction earlier, so let's end the show that way, Rob. What do you think the score will be?
3-1 to Liverpool.
Ooh, 3-1. I like that. I said 2-1 on the show, on the team talk. I might upgrade. I feel like after what we were talking about before about the Klopp versus Tuchel, there might be a few more goals. So maybe it's a 3-1, maybe it's a 3-2. Either way, both of us believe Liverpool are going to get 3 points, and hopefully you do too. Thank you for watching. Hopefully we won't be doing so long until we have to do one of these again, and hopefully you'll be here to join us.